In this next step, what I'm going to do is teach myself to swim with my body. In other words, to connect the weight shift. The combination of mass and gravity in the weight shift is like free energy and free power. All right, so I want to take full advantage of that and not rely on muscular exertion. All right, and so what I'm doing in this step is teaching, and again I do a tuner. And the reason I'm doing this tuner is because, again, through experimentation, I have figured out that the right angle for my hand to complete the recovery part and go to the entry part is with a fairly steep angle. Not quite that steep, but a steeper angle, because most everybody enters the water on a fairly flat extension. They reach over the water, and when they enter, it's flat. And if I want to take this and convert it into propulsion, so the weight shift that's going to happen, and convert that into moving forward, I found out by experimentation that I convert the maximum amount of power generated into thrust forward if the angle of entry is this way. It matches more closely the direction of the hip. All right? If I reach out like this for entry, then mostly what that energy is doing is depressing my arm, not sending me through my target. I want my weight shift to send me through my target, not to drive my arm down. All right? And this angle of entry is the one that is proven most effective at doing that. So, as I said, before I make it more complex, I'm going to make it as simple as I can and practice this recovery, which, as you can see, is a recovery with the arm in the water. I do it with the arm in the water because the resistance of the water encourages me to keep the steeper angle. And you can see it hanging there. And all I'm doing is imprinting where the arm is going to go. All right? I'm just hanging there. It's a little bit of a balance exercise. I'm using the suspended weight of the arm in front of my lungs to help sort of tip me forward into a balanced position. And then I'm just going to do a weight shift. All right? So my left hand is where it should be. I'm rotated off my stomach. And now I'm just going to bring the arm forward, and you can see with the weight shift, now the weight shift is putting it at the target. So it's not as linear as the previous set of drills. I've moved a step closer to swimming here. But I've also moved a step that really gets me a lot more attuned to using the weight shift to drive me through my target. And as you can see, I've adjusted my breathing here too. I'm not doing that breathing where I interrupt the breathing. Now it's continuous switches and continuous breathing. So I'm very close to swimming, and there's the whole length. It looks just like swimming, but my hand is submerged the whole time, and I use the resistance of the water for feedback on where my hand is, what it's doing, when it goes down, and so on. When I take my hand out for the first time, I already want that pattern of movement to be very well established. All right, and here you'll see a transition from a submerged hand, and notice how little change there is when my hand comes out. You can see that little wave in front of my wrist. Now my hand has come out, and notice how much clearance between fingertips and surface. I don't want to lift it any more than necessary to just get it clear. So I want a fraction of an inch of clearance, because more lift doesn't gain me anything. There's no benefit to lifting higher. As a matter of fact, let's do another little exercise, all right? So just put either arm out to the side and have it so that it's flat like this, all right? So you've got the maximum amount of distance from your forearm to your shoulder. All right, the length of your upper arm bone is determining that. All right, so the humerus is, and if you think about it, the target that I have is on that line. All right, the target I have is on that line, because as soon as I roll onto it, I'm right there. All right, so now lift your elbow up a little bit higher. What do you feel happen in the shoulder? More muscle activated, more tension. Drop it down. All right, feel those muscles get turned off. Lift it up. You're just inhibiting yourself by coming up higher than you need to. You're turning on muscles. That's burning energy to turn on muscles that aren't bringing you a benefit. All right? What you saw with me and Shinji is that with rotation added. All right, remember the slides I showed you in the beginning. Me and Shinji on the left track, right arm here, all right? If I'm not rotated, that's what we're seeing, is right here. As soon as I rotate, the arm is where Shinji and I had it, all right? It's something that are arrived at through a lot of thought and experimentation. There's nothing haphazard, nothing accidental about any aspect of this. And again, the transition from the patterning exercise to the stroking. Lots and lots of transition practice from patterning to stroking. Pattern over and over and over. Ton of repetition. And now we take the hand out of the water in the recovery.